Welcome to the WIPS podcast, inspiring and empowering women to take the stage and up their game in the public speaking arena. My name is Chantal Bossé from Shabus, Leaders for Your Presentation, Public Speaking, and AV Needs. Enjoy the show. So hello, everyone. Nice to have you again on the WIPS podcast. And today my guest is Tiffanys Ann Beverlin. She's from Florida in the United States. Welcome, Tiffany.
Hi, how are you? Thank you for having me.
You?
I'm great, actually. It's nice here. It's sunny. It's great.
Well, Florida usually is. You get your bad weather, but usually it's comfortable.
Yeah. We are spoilt. I know.
That's it. But we have, the best thing is just enjoying where we're at. Mm-hmm. And what do you do for work, or what's your business in Florida?
My business is actually global, so your listeners can check it out. Anyone anywhere in the world can check it out. It's online business. It's the only marketplace in the world that specializes in selling things from your divorce.
Wow.
Yeah, it's definitely different.
It is.
Yeah, it's called Dreams Recycled, and we are the only positive divorce kind of umbrella where we literally do everything. So if you're a divorcee and you're looking for any kind of support, help, information to sell your things, move forward in a positive way, we're the place to go.
Oh, that's nice. And I like the positive twist you have done with such a, well, let's call it a negative event. It's never fun, but I like that twist. Nice.
Well, thank you. Well, you don't have a choice, right? Most people, in any adversity, the only control we have is in how we handle it. And right. Positive is always the way to go. It doesn't matter what it is. And that's what we've done for divorce. So
you're making things more manageable for people that want to go through it.
Yeah, more hopeful, right? We all want hope. We all want validation. We all want to know that things, no matter how dismal they are in the here and now, will get better.
True. And even though it's easy to talk with you, I would be curious to know, do you consider yourself to be a shy person or more outspoken in your everyday life?
Actually, I'm a mix, but I think you find a lot of women are like this. Like, I think of myself, actually, I'm an introvert. Like, if you put me in a party, I'm not going to be the girl dancing on the bar. That's never going to be me. But if I talk one-to-one, I'm like quietly confident. And so I don't kind of feel a need to be the loudest person or the most outgoing person. But I think I'm confident, and I think sometimes less words is better.
That's true. We're better off listening a little bit more. Someone's once told me, well, you have one mouth and two ears, so you should listen twice as much as you're talking.
I love that, but I think that's very true.
It is, in a way. Mm-hmm. And speaking of which, when was the first time you were asked to do public speaking?
Well, because of my story with Dreams Recycled, I was actually asked to speak at a women's conference in New York. It was a 3-day conference. I was asked to keynote one of the days, and I was like, oh, Lord, what do I do? I mean, obviously, I know my story. It's always much easier when you're speaking about things that you know. So
it does.
So I kind of took the bull by the horns, and I hadn't really done it on that scale. I spoke in, smaller groups to divorcees and stuff, but not like a big conference. And I went to New York and I did it, and it was nerve-wracking, but then you're like, oh, I did that. That was okay.
So how was that first experience?
It was a learning experience. Okay. Anyone who tells you that you don't learn is wrong, right? So that was my first very big speech. And I want to say that because I was so nervous about the number of people in the room, yes, I thought I had to kind of change everything. And I realized after that they really didn't. So I had this like very clever kind of speech written with all these like references to stuff, and I'd memorized it. And the problem was I was so anxious that I literally in my head kind of just regurgitated what I'd memorized from the speech. And I realized, it wasn't horrible, but I realized afterwards that in the process of doing that, I had lost kind of the authenticity of who I am and why I do what I do.
True.
And lost a lot of like my actual personality, which is a negative when you speak, because we think we're not enough, but we are enough.
We are.
Yeah, exactly how we are. And so to try and kind of be something you're not doesn't ever really work, not in anything and not in speaking.
Oh, I agree with you. And would that experience qualify as, well, would you say was bad or very challenging? Or do you have another one in mind that was more challenging, or that in the end you said, oh, okay, that did not really go well?
Well, I think that was it, really. I mean, because I think I learned it's okay if you're really nervous to kind of memorize it, but it doesn't work long term as a public speaker.
It doesn't.
Yeah, you're much better to just go speak and and even if you don't, see, I used to get so hung up on like hitting all the key points. And I realized that we're the only ones who realize that we missed something, right?
Exactly.
To the listener. And so I think you're much better to speak from the heart and speak about what you're passionate about. And that's 10,000 times better than even a very clever speech that you wrote.
Oh, I totally agree. It reminds me of something I said to a speaker once, and they were afraid, oh, I'll be missing out on some stuff. And I told them, well, you know what? I have this weird way of thinking that in that room at that moment, if you forgot a few things, it's just because those people did not need it. And that's another time, maybe they'll need something else and you will forget other parts, but bring in new stuff. Mm-hmm. So sometimes I get a weird look on people's face because they figure, geez, that's not really analytical and truly tested, but it's my way of dealing with it.
I think that's true, though. I think that if you're on, and I think the same thing, it comes off as disingenuous, that if you're giving a speech and your speech is kind of going in this path, and then in your head the light bulb goes off and you forget something you were going to say and you try and jam it in the path where it's really not supposed to go anyway, it's almost like off-putting listening to somebody do that. And so I think sometimes if you do forget stuff, it's better to just let that go and pretend it was never there.
True. And would you say that was one of the learning points of that experience?
Absolutely. Yeah.
What are the learning elements or the key points that you realize afterwards, after that experience?
Well, I realized, like I said, I mean, you don't need to memorize your speech word for word. That's just silly. I'm not an actress. I'm not up there like winning the Oscars, although that's like my secret dream. So, but I'm not. And I think that that's what I learned. Like, you can't beat being yourself, right? So how you speak and what your kind of language is and whatever you do, that kind of authenticity, as I said, yes, is really what rings true and really what people remember. And since then, all the best speeches I've done, the ones that have been really good is just when I've gone up there and been myself, and and afterwards I have a line of people who want to meet me, and that is actually how I am.
What they say is what they get. So yeah, that's probably why, like you say, you end up sometimes having a big lineup, and that must be very great. Which brings me, what's your greatest memory? You talk about lineups, but do you have something else that comes to mind?
Actually, I like probably my all-time favorite people to speak to. Like, usually I speak to divorcees, and I love divorcees, and I love talking about divorce. But the group that I really feel that gets the most sometimes out of my speeches is I talk to college children. or adolescence. And whether it's about business or marketing or relationships, and I talk to them about who not to marry. I feel like they're so eager to learn, and they're such sponges, and they really listen and pay attention, and they have very smart questions. And I just feel like kind of they're so eager to learn, and it's such a great thing. And afterwards, when those children, I don't know whether to call them children or adolescents, but whatever, college kids, they line up for you afterwards, and they say, if it's a girl and she says like, I want to be just like you, I've just, you've inspired me to be an entrepreneur, or you've inspired me to be a woman in tech, or
wonderful,
whatever. I mean, you can't beat that, right?
I totally agree. That's a really empowering feeling that we have when we're in such a situation. I really like that. And it's funny, like you say, you talk to divorcees, and now you get these, let's call them young adults, coming up to you, and it kind of energizes you even more. That's great. A really great thing.
Yeah. Well, and I honestly think that those young adults, that they will remember my speech, because when they do start to get into serious relationships and start to get married and make these life decisions, even if it's just a little seed in there that I've planted that says, if somebody doesn't treat you well, if they, swear at you, God forbid, hit you, or do whatever, these people don't change, right? And so, and I just hope that I've planted the seed for these young men and women, because abuse happens to everyone, that they make better choices than our generation. Nobody taught us how to be in a relationship or who to be in a relationship with or not. And so I feel like it's a good, valuable thing to do anyway.
Making a difference finally.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering, a question we usually have as women, what would be a wardrobe tip that you would share with people that want to take the stage, especially women?
Well, two things.
Yeah.
Number one, I'm not a big fan of patterns. I think when you speak, that the focus should be on your words. And when you wear something that's patterned, even though in my regular life I actually quite like florals and stuff, but like when I speak, I don't, because I think it's distracting from what you're saying.
That's a good point.
Yeah, and you want the focus on you. And then the second is, I love the girl that invented Spanx. You know what those are?
No, I don't.
Spanx are the things that many women who speak and do public appearances, they wear them. They're kind of like, they hold everything in place.
Oh, okay.
You know what I'm talking about? Yeah. Yeah, the girl that invented them, she's one of my like women in tech idols, or women in business idols. Anyway, so they're brilliant and they work really well. However, if you're going to give a speech, do not wear them. Because it interferes with your breathing patterns, like literally.
Which is bad if you're public speaking, because you need to breathe in a more free way.
Yeah. So that sounds really ridiculous, but that's actually a really good tip. Like, you want to look good, but wear something that's comfortable, where you're not worried about how you look, and you can still breathe, and you're not having a photo shoot, you're speaking, and that should be your main goal.
Exactly. I totally agree. That's very, very valuable. Simple thing, but if we think about it, it will just make us more comfortable on stage. Mm-hmm. And if you would have one tip to help women really be empowered to take the stage, or just be more confident, what would it be?
I think women, we said this before we went on air, we are our own worst enemies. And I think that we really need to feel confident in our worth, in our ideas, in our thoughts, and realize that if we have a story to tell and we have a passion and we speak about it, that our story and our public speaking style as women is just as valuable to an audience as any man's, anyone else's. And we shouldn't really even compare ourselves to them. Just be confident in who you are and what you're saying, and know that you do have value.
I love that. That's very, very valuable. Just being ourselves and believing in ourselves is a big thing. Mm-hmm. Well, I do thank you so much, Tiffany Ann, for sharing all these great information with us. I'm sure it's going to help other women realize that they can just do this if they want to.
Absolutely. And anyone can do it. I am not a public speaker, but I public speak.
That's a good point. That's a good way to put it. Why not?
Yeah. And so I really do think if I can do it, anyone can do it.
Oh, that's a great word. So again, I thank you very much for having us.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
We hope you enjoyed the show. Please tell us what you think by commenting, and even share with your own networks to inspire and empower others to do public speaking.